Hello and welcome to another episode of Property Ponderings, the podcast where we dig deep into the world of property buying, selling and renovating, giving you property advice to ponder. My name's Craig Nickel, your host. I'm a licensed real estate agent in Melbourne, Australia with over 15 years of property experience as an agency owner, property investor, renovator, town planner, salesperson, auctioneer and buyer's agent. I want you to make better property buying, selling and renovating decisions to build the future that you are chasing. Now today's episode is all about 2024 spring selling season and the season that was. The latest CoreLogic housing chart pack reveals that this year's spring market leaned in favour of the buyers, with sales volumes 4% lower than the historic average. And by the end of this episode, you'll understand the key trends shaping the season across Australia, how different cities performed, and what this means for you as a buyer or seller. So let's dive in. So the first thing we want to talk about is a softer market for sellers. And this is the headline takeaway. The 2024 spring selling season was less favourable for sellers than last year. National sales volumes were 4% lower than the historic 5-year average, and clearance rates in the combined capital cities dropped from 62.7% in early spring to just 57.3% by late November. What caused this softer market? Well, according to CoreLogic, a surge in property listings, up to 10.6% nationally, coincided with slower sales activity, giving buyers more options and bargaining power. The median days on market increased to 32 days in the 3 months to November, compared to 27 days during spring 2023. For sellers, this meant properties took longer to sell, with more competition for buyer attention. Now, the next thing I wanted to discuss was the regional winners and losers. Let's break it down into city and region because the performance varied significantly across the country. So Adelaide was a standout winner with the sales volume up 15.8% compared to historic averages. It's no surprise as Adelaide remains one of the more affordable capital cities with solid capital growth in its most affordable suburbs. Perth also saw an interesting shift with total listings increasing by 34% over spring. For the first time this year, Perth's listing levels surpassed those of the same period in 2023, yet demand remains steady, giving Perth a balanced market vibe. Sydney, on the other hand, struggled, with sales volumes at 15.1% below historic averages. Melbourne also saw sluggish activity, reflecting a broader slowdown in higher-priced property markets. For buyers, cities like Sydney and Melbourne offered opportunities to negotiate better deals, while sellers in cities like Adelaide and Perth enjoyed much more robust demand. Now let's take a quick look at renters. So another big trend this spring was a slowdown in rental growth. National rents rose by just 5.3% in the year to November, the slowest pace since April 2021. CoreLogic notes that strained rental affordability may have shifted the dynamics in the market, with some renters opting for share housing or staying longer in family homes. Interestingly, the Reserve Bank of Australia reported that average household sizes have increased, further easing rental demand. For investors, this trend signals the end of the rental boom, with rental yields holding steady at 3.7% nationally. And the next thing I wanted to talk about was the affordability of properties really leading price growth. So while the overall market softened, the most affordable end of the market outperformed. Cities like Adelaide, Perth and Brisbane saw the strongest price growth in their lower quartile suburbs, with increases of 4.7%, 4.5% and 3.1% respectively. In contrast, the high-value markets like Sydney and Melbourne saw price declines in their upper quartiles. Melbourne and Sydney's upper quartile markets saw drops of 1.4% and 1.6% respectively over the November quarter. This tells us that affordability continues to be a key driver in property demand, with buyers favouring areas where they can stretch their dollar further. So what does this all mean for buyers and sellers? So for buyers, if you're entering the market, you're likely to find more options and less competition in cities like Sydney and Melbourne. So take advantage of slower sales environments to negotiate or find properties that meet your criteria. For sellers, it's crucial to set a realistic price expectation and ensure your property stands out. If you're in a high demand market like Adelaide or Perth, now could be a great time to sell, provided you market your property effectively. For investors, with rental growth slowing, focus on properties in markets with strong long-term demand, such as affordable suburbs with good infrastructure and amenities. All right, there you go. So that's a quick episode today, looking at some of the latest data from RP Data's report for the spring selling season, just to give you a bit of an idea of what's been going on. But that wraps up another episode of Property Ponderings. The 2024 selling season may not have been as dynamic as previous years, but it offered plenty of opportunities for strategic buyers and well-prepared sellers. If you'd like to discuss anything further from today's episode, or you want some tailored buying, selling, or investing advice, feel free to contact me on 0400 122 081. And don't forget, send in your questions or topics for future episodes. I'd love to help you get the most out of this podcast. We'll chat again soon. The information provided in this podcast is for general information purposes only and does not constitute financial, legal, or investment advice. While every effort is made to ensure the information shared is accurate and up to date, it may not apply to your specific circumstances. Listeners are advised to seek independent professional advice tailored to their personal situation before making any property, financial, or investment decisions. Nickel Buyer Advisory and Craig Nickel disclaim all liability for any decisions made based on the information discussed in this podcast. Property markets are dynamic and outcomes can vary depending on factors such as location, timing, and economic conditions. Always conduct thorough research and consult with trusted professionals before taking action. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer.